Welcome back to Casual Friday. It has been pretty short hiatus, but it's felt like forever. It felt like the airwaves needed us, needed the trio going here. I am here with the usual suspects, Mensa, the great, Shawn, the GOAT. I flipped it around. It's the same. It works either way because my two partners are two of the best in the business. Let us start with a vibe check, as we always do. Let's go with my dog Mensa. How the vibes, Mensa? How you feeling?
The vibes are actually brand new, real newborn over here. In the time that we've been out, me and my wife actually delivered a baby. We have a brand new baby boy, a brand new Knicks fan. So that's been awesome. Haven't got much sleep. So if I'm not my best today, I apologize. But all things considered, even though the Knicks got shellacked against Milwaukee, my vibes are on an all-time high. Brand new love, brand new feelings, just in a great space mentally, and I'm ready to get back to talking Knicks.
That's amazing, Mensa. Obviously, we've all, your KFS family has told you congrats numerous times, but we can't say it enough. We're so happy for you. Just super amazing news. My one question is, can you now relate to some of the claims that Josh Hart's poor start was due to having young kids in the household? Is that can you imagine that affecting one's performance at work?
So I'm glad I'm on paternity leave right now because my baby boy wakes up on the hour, like from midnight to like 6 a.m. He's up every hour on the hour. However, terrible. I am a working class black man. Josh Hart is a millionaire.
Yes, sir.
He's a decamillionaire, actually. He has a lot of money. We all know how much the Knicks just paid him, so he can afford help. And I'm pretty sure between the hours of 10 and 6, he can get sleep. So I'm not sure he has the excuse, but anybody else in my tax bracket, absolutely. If you're still working, you're an insane human being. And I really feel sorry for you. You gotta make something shake because look, the midnight hour. Yeah. God is not turning it around just yet.
I have to agree. I have to fully agree with that take. I gotta say, if you are in Josh Hart's position, some of these things that apply to us normal folks may not apply to you. But yeah, I totally hear you. I will go second, actually, to switch it up. I'll have Shawn go last. On my end, the vibes are a little dispirited, I would say. Just thinking about the most recent Knicks game against the Bucks. I didn't think that they would win that game going into it, but I thought it'd be a close game. I just don't like how they lost it. I think the Bucks are going to light it up on most nights, and their offense is really kicking into gear. And when they're clicking on all cylinders, there's not much you could do to stop them. I mean, obviously we all know the deal. They have Giannis, they have Damian Lillard, and they have a really good cast of supporting characters over there. But I just feel like and I'm not the first person to say this. I have been harping on this for a long time. I just don't like how the Knicks sell out to protect the rim against teams like Milwaukee, teams that have a major interior threat like Giannis. And I always say the same thing. It makes offense too easy for the opponent. I understand the idea behind it, right? And if it's executed perfectly, it would work pretty well, but it's too difficult to execute perfectly. And I just think it's too excessive and exaggerated. So, that's the only thing that has my vibes a little more dispirited. But, on the whole, the Knicks season is going really well. And I think I just got my hopes up to see them be the first in-season tournament champion team and just see what that would do to social media and ESPN primarily. So not going to get to see it, but at the same time, the season's going really well for the Knicks and they have bigger and brighter things in their future. So that's kind of where I'm at with the vibes for me. Shawn, how are the vibes on your end, man?
So for me, the vibes are very clicky, and not clicky like, clicks and groups of people, but clicky as in Knicks for clicky, because there's been a lot on the timeline. There's been a lot of Knicks for clicks on the timeline. To echoing your sentiments, I was very disappointed in the game against Milwaukee. I too got hyped that the Knicks could win the first ever IST. I may or may not have had a bet at plus 2,200 for them to win the IST. So,
my condolences.
Yeah, that's why it's called gambling. But now we're at the point where anytime the Knicks have a run of success and then they trip up and they hit a pothole on the road to success, it is used to litigate the state of the franchise, the direction of the franchise, and it's by people who, as I said yesterday on I Hate Shawn space, people with agendas, and two narratives have begun to reappear again. One is that we don't have a star. And I like to thank a certain gentleman with extreme male pattern baldness who appears on the 4-letter network for bringing that shit up yesterday. And every time I hear him or anybody say, "Where's the star? We ain't got no stars. Where's the stars, Leon?" That is a diss to Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson is a star. Now, I'll take a step back. For me, I realize people use the word star and superstar interchangeably. For me, superstar is you are the best player on a championship contender. And like Mensa tweeted out earlier, there's only 7 or 8 of those guys in the league. Okay. Then you have the guys who could be the number 2 or number 3 on a title contender. And those are your stars. I don't think I'm going on a limb where we say Jalen Brunson can be a number 2 or 3 player on a title contender. I don't think that's a stretch, but I'm told that we don't have a star. And I got to read about, what's this dude's name? Shams Charania is saying like, "Hey, well, the Knicks are the Knicks are interested in a star." Like,
breaking news, everybody.
One, breaking news.
The Knicks need a star player.
2, isn't everybody looking for a star? Like, everybody? But whatever. It's just a diss to Brunson. Like, shout out to NYK Terry on Twitter. He said, if Kyrie Irving had did the same things, if he did the exact same things in a year and a half for the Knicks, everyone say he's a star. But for some reason, Jalen Brunson, he doesn't get that same respect. And that's a slap. And honestly, and I'll say this, that's a slap in the face to Julius Randle. Because guess what? Julius Randle's a star, whether you like it or not. Period. End of story. I don't know anybody who makes all NBA and is an all-star twice in 3 years and is a role player. Point me to that guy, because that guy does not exist. So we have 2 stars. Do we need a superstar? Yes. Okay. Second thing, and this one actually really grinds my gears. The narrative is about how we're stuck in the middle. And we're stuck in the middle because we didn't do a proper rebuild, because there's only one way to build a team. Being miserable, like if you're miserable at where the Knicks are, may I remind you, and shout out to Ray Marcano, because he reminded us of this yesterday on Wednesday on the KFS Town Hall, that the 2018-19 Knicks lost not 1, not 2, not 3, but 18 games in a row. Did you remember that? I didn't. I must have Men in Blacked that out of my memory, because I completely forgot. How can we complain about where this team is now when not even 5 years ago, we were 17-65 and we lost 18 games in a row? Now, what some of the narrative men out there and the agendas, they like to build the straw man argument and say things like, "Oh, you're just happy with scraps. You're look at you being happy because you're content with just you don't want to get any better." And listen, happy and content aren't synonymous. I'm happy where we are. That doesn't mean I'm content where we are. And that doesn't mean I'm content to be here forever. But I'm happy where we are. And I just have a problem with, for some reason, then our franchise is characterized like when we stink, we're clowned. When we're ascending, we're clowned. When we make the playoffs, we're clowned. When we win a playoff series, we're clowned. It's like we can't ever do anything right unless you win the championship. That's the only way you can get it right. Well, guess what? 29 other teams get it wrong. Get it wrong every year. You know what's funny? The Sacramento Kings have a good young nucleus, good players, whatever. I don't hear anyone yelling about they need to trade for a star. They could just be Sacramento, whatever. I don't hear anyone saying Sacramento's stuck in the middle. You know who's stuck in the middle? The Chicago Bulls. Or as I tweeted today, the Chicago Bulls. They're stuck in the middle. They have nowhere to go unless they blow the whole thing up. But it's because, hey, we didn't do a proper rebuild. If we did a proper rebuild, we'd have had Halliburton. Do you realize that Knicks, if you let Knicks Twitter tell it, we should have on the team at the same time, Halliburton, Michael Porter Jr., Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who am I forgetting? Well,
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish, Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin. Like, we should have had Obi Toppin and Halliburton at the same time, right? But like, there's more than one way to build a team. Now, I know that XJ he's team tank. He's absolutely team tank. And I understand that. But where I push back, and I'm going to throw it to XJ in a second. Where I push back is, and I don't think XJ is like this, but there are people who act like tanking is foolproof. That's why I say they say a proper rebuild, and they point to teams like Orlando, because apparently Orlando's best player is better than all of our guys, even though he's been in the league for 15 minutes. And I look at them and I say, would you have went through a rebuild for 10 years? Because a lot of people forget. They started over with the Dwight Howard trade in 2012 offseason. And then they went and they drafted, let's see now, they drafted Aaron Gordon, number 4. Is he on the team anymore? No. They drafted next year, the number 5 pick, Mario Hezonja. Is he on the team anymore? No. Okay. Domantas Sabonis. He's not on the team anymore. Oh, whatever. 2017, number 6, Jonathan Isaac. 2018, number 6, Mo Bamba. Where's my boy?
Yeah, 2014, 12th overall, Alfred Payton, baby.
That's what Alfred Payton. I say that to say there is this idea, and there's this idea that like it's okay. You can have a preferred way of wanting to build a team. That's fine. But just because the team did not build the team the way you wanted to doesn't mean that they did it wrong. But the question I'll ask XJ and then I'll ask Mensa is this. Because I know you're team tank, and I get it, because as long as there's an incentive to tank, as long as there's an incentive to not win, teams are going to explore it. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to March of 2020 and be Leon Rose, would you follow the blueprint that the Knicks followed, or would you say, tank it, let it go? And not necessarily it doesn't have to be that you made every single move, like you signed Elf and you brought in
Kemba,
Austin Rivers, and yeah, but like if basically Mr. Dolan said you can either just tank or you can follow this blueprint, what would you do for this team in this market, knowing what you know now?
Well, knowing what I know now, I would say what the route that they took was a preferred route over tanking. I think that the thing is, for me, is that, as you said, tanking is not foolproof whatsoever. And anybody claiming that like that's what needs to be done for any team that's trying to build a championship contender is wrong, right? Like I don't agree with that. The whole thing about tanking for me is that it's about probabilities for success. And in my opinion, if you are starting from scratch, we're bringing in a new front office. We don't have any stars on the team. We don't really have any like ascending stars on the team. At that point, even if we did, if it was an aging star, depending on the age and things like that, at that point, it's like tanking is probabilistically probably the most effective way to get to the championship contention over the course of like 3 to 5 years. Now, the way that the Knicks did it was extremely effective. And I think that if they did, like if we were to go back and look at some like imaginary counterfactual and they did tank, I don't think that would have worked out as well as how things have worked out now. I think how things have worked out now are better than it would have been if they tanked. But without that, the really nice thing about having this hindsight, I wouldn't have. I would have tanked just because I wouldn't know that, what they did would have worked out better. But like at the same time, I'm just saying, I don't think that there's any one way to build a team. I think that this is what I would go with just because I basically make all my decisions probabilistically. What do I feel like? Is this a 70% chance of happening versus a 40% chance of happening? I'm going to go with the 70% chance of happening like every time. That doesn't mean that in 30% of situations, that's not going to work. And in the other one, in 40% of the situations, it is going to work. So who knows how things actually play out. So that to me, that's where I land. And I think that the way that the Knicks built the team wouldn't be how I built the team. But guess what? Where we are right now is amazing and probably better than we would have been with the alternative. So I love what they did. I wouldn't go back and change it now. And I don't have any complaints. I think they're in an amazing spot. I think that they're in one of the best spots in the NBA in terms of the assets that they have, the team that they have, the contracts that guys are signed to, all of the various factors that go into it. I think that they're in an amazing spot, potentially top 5 through 8-ish in terms of the NBA of teams I would want to be if I was just like trying to pick a team to be a fan of. The Knicks would be in that group. So I love how it worked out. I don't think there's any problem to that at all.
Yeah. With I think that's a great way to put it as far as just where the Knicks are today and what they could have done. But I'd like to offer a different perspective on it all, which is who says the Knicks didn't tank? The New York Knicks in 2019 picked 3rd overall. In 2020, they picked 8th overall. The Knicks had 2 top 10 players on their roster as recently as last year that they drafted themselves. And what is the purpose of tanking other than to grab a player early on in the draft? You want to get a high pick and then you want another high pick. The Knicks had 2 top 10 picks in the draft, right? Which to me is proof, not necessarily that tanking works if you are coming from a position of strength out of the tank, right? Like the New York Knicks. Okay, we technically came from a position of strength, trading Porzingis for a bunch of flotsam and getting 2 picks, 1 unprotected and 1 top 10 protected that still has not yielded yet, right? If you look at the Orlando Magic, everybody loves the Orlando Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those are 2 teams who everybody believes tanked the right way, right? Even the Sacramento Kings, what they had to do to get to where they are is they had to leverage a star player. Maybe not the Kings, but the Orlando Magic, they had to trade Vucci Mane to the Chicago Bulls, and that's how they ended up with the pick that netted them Franz Wagner, right? Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder had to trade, they didn't know, it wasn't the Russell Westbrook trade. They had to trade Paul George, and that's how they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? So the Knicks, if you look at teams that were unsuccessful in their tank, you want to talk about those mid-teens Orlando Magic. You want to talk about the mid-teen Sacramento Kings. They were just bad, and they kept picking bad. Well, they kept picking high, and a lot of those players were bad. The thing about tanking that makes it successful is you need as many swings at the bat as possible, because all tanking gurus will tell you that the draft is a crapshoot. So if you are a Knicks fan or a fan of any basketball team, and you think that the way to tank is just to have high picks, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong and you have it ass backwards, because you need to leverage the current assets on your team, whether it be draft picks, whether it be highly valued basketball players, and you need to use those to get better draft picks or more draft picks. If you look at how the Utah Jazz, how they kickstarted their tank, they traded Rudy Gobert for 4 picks, and they traded Donovan Mitchell for 3 picks and 2 unprotected swaps. That is how you tank. You don't just tank by being bad. You tank by being bad and having 2 more picks so that you can, like the New York Knicks did, which actually spearheaded their tank, if we want to talk the truth, when we traded Marcus Morris and we got the 25th pick, the 23rd pick in the draft, traded that for the 27th, and traded back up for the 25th pick, and that turned into Emmanuel quickly, right? If you look at a guy like Quentin Grimes came by way of a draft pick that we got from the Dallas Mavericks, having more swings at the bat. That is how you tank. So if you think the Knicks did not tank, then maybe you don't understand what tanking actually is. Tanking is, again, not just being bad, but using the current assets on your team to turn those into draft picks so that you can get more cost control assets down the line. And if you look at the New York Knicks roster, we have cost control Quentin Grimes. We have cost control Emmanuel Quickly. We have cost controlled RJ Barrett. All of these guys, when we say cost control, we mean because when you are drafted, you have up to 9 years of cost control, because you get that first 4 years in the first round and then up to 5 more years on that second contract, either through restricted free agency or a contract extension. That is how you tank in the NBA. The New York Knicks, if you look at their roster, did follow some of those principles. The Knicks took a hybrid model, and you can say it was a half measure, whether you want to or not. But at the end of the day, they got two-time All-NBA, two-time All-Star Julius Randle off the street for nothing. They went and got All-NBA level, All-Star level point guard Jalen Brunson off the street for basically nothing, for second-round picks and a couple and more flotsam because they had to clear cap space. That is excellent work. The New York Knicks have done excellent work to build the team to where they are because they have cost control assets. They have two stars who are making about half of a max contract right now. And then they have all these picks going forward. They have the Milwaukee pick. They have the Detroit pick. They have the Dallas pick. They have the Washington pick. They have a bunch of second-round picks, and they still have all of their first-round picks. So the New York Knicks are loaded to do business with whoever they want to do business with. And like Shawn was alluding to earlier, I had a tweet, and I was speaking about how the New York Knicks, these are the players that the New York Knicks, if they added, would make them a title contender. You're talking about guys like Giannis, like Steph, like LeBron, like maybe Devin Booker, like Ja Morant, like whoever you think that guy is, that superstar is, that's the list, right? A bunch of superstars. And if you cross-reference that list with available players who will make the New York Knicks a championship contender, there are no available superstars that will make this team by themselves a title contender. So the Knicks are right to be sitting on the powder. I mean, obviously, they're going to have to shit or get off the pot at some point. But right now, up to this point, the Knicks have played their hand about as well as you possibly can. This is a team that has all the assets to get a star, and we can expect to see them again in the top in the final 8. I would say I would expect them to win at least. I personally expect them. I would expect them to win a playoff series. So this is a team with no superstar that we can expect to win at least one playoff series this year, and they still have all this leverage going forward. So to take issue with the New York Knicks building, yeah, there are things they did not do right, of course, but nobody bats 1,000 in this thing. Sam Presti does not bat 1,000. Whoever you think the best guy is, John Hammond down in Orlando, did not bat 1,000. Right? All these guys made mistakes along the way, but it's the ability to hit where you need to hit the double, hit the triple, hit the home run. The New York Knicks have the ability to do that. And because they didn't swing at Donovan Mitchell, and because they didn't trade everything for Karl-Anthony Towns, and because they don't want DeMar DeRozan, bro, like because they don't want these guys, that doesn't mean they're not doing a good job. And I think we need to take a step back. And personally, one of the things that I bring to the table here at Knicks Film School is just the recall, understanding what it takes to build a championship team and how everybody got there. The New York Knicks have taken a hybrid model, but if you look at how everybody gets to where they're going and what the Knicks are doing, the Knicks are on the right track. And that could be a different podcast for another day, but I have zero issues with what the Knicks have done. And I personally would have made one or two moves differently, but that's because I'm a different human being and everybody will do things differently. That's just the way this world works. So yeah, I'm very pleased with what the Knicks have done, and I'm happy to see where they take this thing, because I think the next 12 to 18 months are going to be really pivotal. And I think that there's a lot of runway for them to make good decisions.
Hey, one thing really quickly. So the poll, when it wasn't, so yes, OKC, because that's a team that everyone, the tanker truthers and the we're stuck in the middle, they love to point at OKC, and they did it the right way. To your point, number one, they had a player that was able to give them more assets and trade in Paul George for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But let's take a step back even further. Why did they have Paul George? They traded Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo, two young players, for a guy who everyone knew wanted to play in LA, who was on the last year of his contract. Can you imagine this fan base? Like, can you imagine if this fan base who cries about, like, the people who cry about Cam and cry about Obi and cry about this guy and get a shot? Could you imagine? Do you think they would have sat down and watched them trade Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo? One was on his rookie deal. One might have been on his second deal, or he's getting close to it, for a guy that had 1 year left of his contract. See, those are the things that we forget, that we leave out. We just think, like, we just look at the end product because we don't follow this team. We don't follow Orlando. We don't follow OKC. We just look at the end product. It's like, hey, why didn't we do that? Right? But, you know, there's just, like, I'm just tired of this. Like, dude, like we are where we are. we could be better. Yes, it could be better. It could be a lot worse. Like we're in a good place. That's the biggest takeaway. The Knicks are in a very, very good place, and they'll let anybody on any 4-letter network or any single letter social media app tell. In fact, I'm gonna give a shout out to Shawn. I hate Shawn again because he said people who listen to opinions about the Knicks that don't watch the Knicks is stupid. Like, you're listening to somebody talk about the Knicks who does not follow the team. It doesn't matter if they're on TV or they're on a social media or anywhere in between. That's absolutely ridiculous. Don't be one of those people.
Yeah, I think that's super well said by both of you. And just to crystallize some of these points, the Knicks are definitely in a great place. I don't think that's arguable. Like, if anybody's saying the Knicks are not in a really good place as a franchise right now, they're either hating or lying, or they just are confused. There's no other options, honestly. I think it's objectively the case that they're in a really good place as a franchise right now. And they got here by not doing a full tank. As Mensa makes a compelling argument that there was some tanking principles applied to what they've done recently. But I also, as you said, Mensa, tanking is really a process where you want to get multiple high picks, because the draft, nothing's guaranteed in the draft. It's close to a crapshoot. And so you need to get, multiple top 5 picks to have a better chance of hitting that one pick. And we've seen teams tank, and all the teams that have tanked have not been, batted 100 or batted, 1,000 on those picks. So all of that is extremely well said. Here on Casual Friday, we're going to move over to, one of our fun segments that we do now. We do not give out game balls. Instead, we give out shout outs. Each of us are going to pick something or someone in the Knicks world to give a shout out to. It could be anything. It could be a player. It could be anything that our hearts and minds come up with. Mine is probably going to be a little off the wall, but I'll save mine and kick it. Actually, I'll kick it right back over to Shawn to start out. You have your shout out for the week.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep mine simple, and I'm gonna give my shout out of the week to Julius Randle. Julius Randle, against arguably the best defensive 4-5 combination in the league, scored 41 points on 19 shots. He scored 41 points on 19 shots. There was concern about, listen, everyone knows the stories about Randall and the past and everything like that. But I was watching that game. I was actually out with coworkers, but I was watching the game, and Julius has changed his shot diet from that We Here season. It's basically either in the paint or threes. And he basically got rid of the long twos. And anytime, it's funny because during that We Here season, whenever he took that step back long midi from the baseline, you knew it was cash. And then ever since then, every time he takes that step back long midi, you're like, no. So I have a little PTSD about that. But when I saw him hit his first two middies, I was like, okay, we are cooking. Because if we have that guy, it's going to be a very long night. And yes, it was a very long night because the Milwaukee Bucks shot a free throw percentage in non-garbage time minutes from 3. But listen, it was in a game. And what's funny? We crush certain players that don't do it in big games. And I always feel like the definition of big game is whatever you want it to be to help your argument. Listen, I'm not going to say Tuesday night was a playoff game, but that was a winner go home game. Like, our tournament was like, you lose and you're out. And he scored 41 points and 19 shots. So I'm going to give Julius Randle a shout out for this week.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Julius for how he's been playing so, recently. Looking back in all NBA form, I mean, honestly, to me, the Raptors game that he performed in was even better in terms of his court vision, his decision making. He just seemed like totally in control of that game. And, that performance, the 41 point performance was also like tremendously efficient. It seemed like he could kind of do whatever he wanted to get to all of his spots. So Julius has been absolutely balling and is fully back into the kind of all NBA stature for Julius Randle. So I well-deserved shout out. I don't know if you want to add anything, Mensa, or drop your shout out.
Look, if you didn't shout out Julius Randle, I was going to. I'm a known vocal skeptic of Julius Randle. My opinion on Julius Randle is all over the internet. I think he's been excellent. I think he's been great. I think he has rounded into form to the guy that we all know he is, which is the all NBA power forward Julius Randle, that is much maligned because he has such high highs, and as high as those highs are, those lows are just as low. And he still has his little brain farts and everything during the game. But again, he's not a perfect basketball player. This isn't Nikola Jokic we're talking about. This isn't Steph Curry we're talking about. This is your regular run of the mill all NBA basketball player, whether we like it or not. And he's been completely in control these past few games, and I'm very proud of him. I'm very happy to see him go, and I hope that he continues to keep it up because we're going to need him. This team needs Julius Randle, and as long as he's going, we're going to be all right. Just to roll into my shout out, I want to shout out the other New York Knick, the second Knick, who is maybe top 3 maligned New York Knicks this season. A guy by the name of Josh Hart, Mr. Breast Milk himself. I want to shout him out because he has found his game. In the past games, he's been really good with the rebounding, with the scoring. I don't have his numbers in front of me right now, but I just remember coming away very impressed with the way Josh Hart is playing. Early in the season, a lot of it was the ambivalence to shoot, and just not be the apprehension, I should say, to shoot, and all of the starting ahead of, Quentin Grimes or starting ahead of Emmanuel quickly and getting all these minutes where it's like he's getting 39 minutes and Quick is getting 22 and we're like, what is going on? A lot of that isn't Josh Hart's fault. A lot of that is the coach's fault, and he's been really good. We're seeing why. He has unfortunately supplanted Emmanuel Quickley as the 6th man on this basketball team. Unfortunately, because I'm an Emmanuel Quickley lover, I will always love Emmanuel Quickley. But Josh Hart's been great. He's been really good. And if he's playing like that, as long as everybody else around him is doing what they need to do, the Knicks are going to win a lot of games. So I want to shout out Josh Hart this week.
I think that's a great shout. It might surprise some people to know over his last 6 games, Josh Hart is shooting 53% from 3 and 62% from the field overall, to go along with 6 rebounds and 2 assists. So he's really turned it around, because to start the season, it was really close who was worse, Josh Hart or Quentin Grimes. Like, it was not clear which one was having a worse impact on the team between those two. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it's very clear that it's not Josh Hart. Josh Hart is...
Fortunately, guys, we have an answer. The jury is back.
Yeah, thankfully, I can say we have cleared this one up. So, yeah, I definitely love that shout out. You want to add anything to that, to the Josh Hart conversation, Shawn? Because I know, I just want to say, I know you're not the biggest Josh Hart supporter, and not because you don't like who he is as a player, but for some of the ways that he's been kind of dispatched by this team, by the coaching staff, and the ways that he's been treated. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Look what happens when you take open threes. That's all.
Look what happens when you do what the offense tells you to do.
It makes a big difference. It makes it could be argued it makes all the difference. Who knows? For my shout out, I'm going kind of off the board, kind of off topic, but it's Casual Friday. We can do stuff like this. It doesn't matter. I want to give a shout out to Toronto Raptors fans.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So Toronto Raptors fans were all personally in my replies and mentions, in the days before the Knicks Raptors game, specifically to try to dunk on me about a Grimes and Barnes comparison that I made last year. Obviously, I want to say this first. They all miraculously disappeared after the Knicks spanked them and dismantled them in the second half of that game at Scotiabank Arena. They all scattered like roaches. It was crazy. I couldn't find them. But I also want to say, Quentin Grimes had a better year than Scotty Barnes did last year. Like, that's just true. It doesn't mean anything about their long-term trajectory as players or who's going to be a franchise guy or any of that stuff. Like, That just happened. That's a thing that happened. I'm sorry if it bothers you that the Knicks 25th pick in the draft had a better third year than your fourth pick in the draft. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Guys. Same draft, same exact draft. So cool. Barnes has taken a huge leap this year. All power to him. His defense has been amazing. You know, his shooting's been unsustainably good, but you know, he's taken a huge leap, and Grimes is obviously sputtering and struggling to find his place. But I'm not sure why this is being celebrated as like Raptors fans' biggest achievement since KD tore his Achilles. Like this doesn't make sense to me that like we're so excited. Let's latch on to this strange like 25th pick versus fourth pick comparison. Like it's the most bizarre thing to me. So I don't get it. Shout out to Raptors fans. I don't know why they all went MIA. Like I was waiting for all 50 of the ones who have been just constantly sending me replies to come back, but I couldn't find them. So yeah, I just, you know, I wanted to leave the two clearly deserving Knicks players to you guys to give the shout outs to. And for me, I just wanted to roast Raptors fans because they're hilarious to me. So that's where I'm at.
There are a bottom 5 fan base in the league, and I stand on business when I say that. They're actually very similar to the Knicks fans because they are very, very passionate about their team, but they can go a little bit overboard. They're just nicer people, but then until you cross them. But listen, I actually want to give I got a few Raptors fans that I know. Shout out to Jess, shout out to Santa Rosa, shout out to Zazu. Shout out to Keaton. They're cool. I shout out to Kevin F. Like they're cool. Although I don't know if Kevin F's a Knicks fan or Raptors fan. I can't tell. It's just
me either.
It's
my guy though.
Yeah, shout out to him. But yeah, they are. Listen, I tell them all the time. Let me know when you're building a statue of Greg Popovich outside the Air Canada Center, because he is the reason why you have the gravitas that you have to walk around with your heads held high and thumping your chest because Greg Popovich thought he was sending Kawhi Leonard to the wall. So yes, listen, hey look. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and they were prepared to take advantage of the opportunity that was presented to them. But as I always say, the process is more important than the result. And can you repeat that process again? It looks like Masai's been trying to repeat it. Is like, I'm just gonna wait for someone to trade me another star and for pennies on the dollar.
Absolutely.
And here we are.
I'm just waiting for another idiot.
I will hold on to my players and lose them all for nothing until someone trades me a star. Someone trade me a damn star for free. I don't care.
All I want to say about the Toronto Raptors is Scotty Barnes is so good. You are still outside the club. You are in 11th place. Looking at everybody else. So they probably left your mentions because they realized they were outside of the club and went home because it got cold outside. I know it gets cold in Canada, guys, but just like how Toronto is outside of the United States of America, the Toronto Raptors are outside of the club. All right. So when you guys can get in the club, we will have some more conversations.
Absolutely. I think that's extremely well said. And I do want to clarify because Shawn, you made a good point. This is not painting all Raptors fans with a broad brush. There are some obviously many cool and chill and great Raptors fans and fans of every fan base. And, you know, I think I speak for us all when I say we love Toronto, the city. You know, it's a great city, super fun, super, you know, lots to do, entertainment, diversity. It's a great place. So shout out to Toronto, like for real, but shout out to these Raptors fans that have been in my mentions, like not for real though. Let's move on for our next segment. We like to call it Why So Unserious. So for this segment, we make our choice of who around the Knicks has been most unserious since our last Casual Friday. And our last Casual Friday was a while ago. Was it a month ago at this point? I don't know. It's been a minute since we've been back. So there's a lot of options, you know, to choose from. I think let's just start with you, Mensa, on this one. You want to kick us off?
I gotta go with my dog, man. I gotta go with my dog here. RJ Barrett, why are you so unserious? You are breaking the hearts of a million stands on Twitter right now, myself being one. I don't mind the process at all, but since he's come back from the migraine, and I know there's been like one or two articles floating out there that maybe he's not all the way back, but the same way I got on Julius Randle for coming back too early from the ankle injury, the same way I'm going to get on you, RJ. That's not an excuse. You're playing basketball games. The process has been good, but you gave us glimpses of a 3-level scorer, of a guy who put it together the same way he had it together during the playoffs, and now the jump shot has left. Now we are not getting to the rim. The defense has been good, and I'm proud of you for that, brother. I'm very proud of you. But we need the shot to fall again. I'm encouraged because the free throw shooting has not gone away. Still making shots at the free throw line, which is a pretty good trend. So I'm sure the jump shot's going to come back around, but we need it to come back around a lot faster because there's a guy in the front office by the name of Leon Rose, and he's not bullshitting. He is going to trade somebody at some point, and I don't want it to be you, my brother. So I need you to get it together because there are a lot of other guys on the team right now, young guys who don't have it together, but they're not my guy the way you're my guy. So I need RJ Barrett to be a little more serious, hit some jumpers. Let's get back to the line. Let's get back to doing the things that made me an insufferable human being on Twitter. I need him to get back to that so I can go back to terrorizing the timeline. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I was gonna. I'm not gonna lie. That was where I was gonna go with it. So I was surprised to see you go that direction.
Happy it came from me.
I'm proud of you. I was gonna say I'm proud of you, and I'm happy it came from you. Honestly, I would have much preferred it come from you than from me. But I will say, just to add some context, because you made all the correct points. Over the last 8 games since RJ has been back from migraines, he's averaging over 20 points per 36 minutes, but he's shooting a brutal 35% from the field and 25% from 3. Yikes. And furthermore, he's averaging 2.7 assists to 2.4 turnovers per 36. That's not going to cut it. Like you said, the defense has still been there. And that's really encouraging because we've seen at some points, in past years when the offense goes, the defense goes. That hasn't been the case so far this year. And he's still feasting in transition, which has been great. And like you mentioned, he's still shooting 86% from the free throw line over the last 8 games. So, he's still putting pressure on defenses and still hitting his free throws. So he still has value and utility. It's not like you're like, this guy is killing us and needs to come off the court. But yeah, I obviously I didn't think that his huge leap in shooting would really sustain like that, just because it was such a ridiculous leap. Like no one would sustain that. But I do think that he can shoot 37% for the year. And I'm just hoping that he gets back to that because they need his shot making. I really think they need his shot making a lot, especially if he's going to spend so much time on the court with both Brunson and Randle. So, yep. I think that's a great call there on So Unserious. Shawn, you want to add anything about RJ?
No, I mean, it sucks because, first of all, Frank Miranda, a.k.a. Frank from Patreon, is absolutely hilarious because in the post game after the Bucks game, his comment, he left a super chat and he was like, "Where are all the RJ booty clappers after the first 7 games? They've all disappeared." And I'm like, this dude's a menace. Oh man. But yeah, listen, like, it's just like, why can't we just get like 25 games in a row of that RJ Barrett? And he wasn't like, I don't need you to be a superstar. I don't need you to why can't we? It's so frustrating. Like every time we think he turns a corner, something like last year, not last season. Yeah, last season. He was playing well, and then because Luka doesn't want to cut his fingernails, and he slices his finger, and he's out a few games and comes back, and then he struggles. So, like, I just wish he could just get a run of, like, I just want to see I just want to see RJ Barrett be in contention for Eastern Conference Player of the Month, not of the week, for the month. Like, you know what? Your play this month has been so good. We're going to nominate you for this award. So yeah, that's all I got on RJ.
Yep. No, I think that's fair enough. I think, yeah, I'll go next on Why So Unserious. I think it's just really appropriate because, Mensa called out his guy, just got to keep it real with his guy. And for my why so unserious, I'm going to call out my guy, keep it real with him. Emmanuel Quickly gets my why so unserious. Similarly to how RJ's been performing over the last 7 games, Quickly is shooting 37% from the field, still a solid 36% from 3, but, not as effective as far as like being a creator, not as effective as a scorer, kind of looking like not high volume, I wouldn't say, but a mid-range volume scorer and not having the same impact that he's had on defense, which we all know has become his calling card. He's been a little up and down defensively. EPM has him as a minus 0.8 on the year for defense, which would be 40th percentile in the NBA. For context, last year he was a plus 1.6, which would have been 93rd percentile in the NBA. So that's a really, 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 really large drop off in terms of his impact on the defensive end. Obviously, a small sample. Some noise in the data there, but I do think that that reflection is more or less accurate in terms of his impact defensively. Has not really been there. We've still seen Quickly do things like making up for his teammates' mistakes and kind of somehow miraculously appearing in the right place, even though didn't seem like he was in the play at some point. So we still see glimpses here and there, but on a consistent day-to-day, night-to-night basis, he has not been as solid. He's made some bad decisions, and he doesn't seem as locked in defensively. He seems like he's trying to show that he's a scorer. He can light it up like a guy, like his old college teammate, Maxey. And I don't want to see that from Quickly. I want to see Quickly do what he always does, impact the game without needing to have the ball in his hands. And when he does have the ball in his hands, the things that I have liked is that he has been one of the most effective creators out of the pick and roll. And that is something he's going to have to do to get his contract that he wants. He is going to have to show that he can manipulate a pick and roll very effectively. And he's done that so far this year, but I need to see the other parts of his game pick up, because a big part of it is, can you do all these things offensively while maintaining your defensive impact, while maintaining your off-ball impact? For a guy like Quickly, you have to do all of those things, because that's the way you get to the territory of like a Derek White, who does all of those things. He hits his threes, he can handle the ball, he plays tremendous on-ball defense and plays tremendous off-ball defense, and at all times. And if you're going to be a guy like that, you have to be able to maintain it on both sides pretty much at all times. And I just don't think Quickly's done that consistently this year. And especially over the last 7 games, he hasn't really been shooting the ball well. So it's been a little more glaring to me. So for me, I'll give it to my guy, my why so unserious, to Emmanuel Quickly. I don't know if either of you have thoughts on Quickly's performance of late.
Yeah, this has been a heartbreaking segment because we just got to take our guys to task. This has not been, it's not what you want.
Not what you want.
I agree. Emmanuel Quickly hasn't been his best. Like I mentioned earlier, he's been supplanted as from the 6th man to 7th man. I'm not sure how much of that is just coach preference, coach bias, or if it's just merit, because he hasn't been that great as of recent. He got off to a great start to the season. He was playing really well. We were all behind Quick. We were happy to see Quick. We were happy to have him on his team because he was the Quick that we remembered. And he's just hit a rut in the season. Again, a lot of having a team as young as the New York Knicks is learning to be okay with the ups and downs. Right now, RJ Barrett's having a down. Right now, Emmanuel Quickly's having a down. Right now, Quentin Grimes is having a down. Right now, quietly, but truly, Mitchell Robinson is having a down. It comes with the season. It's an 82 game season. It's a long one. We are 20 games of the way through, so right around 25%. It's just not. These guys need to be better. They do. Emmanuel Quickly specifically was such a huge part of what we did last year. By my estimation, he was the 3rd best player on the team. And the reason why he was the 3rd best player on the team is because every night he was the 2nd best player on the team. The 1st best player may have been Julius or may have been Jalen, but always consistently, Emmanuel Quickly was the 2nd best player on the court for the New York Knicks. This year, his impact we haven't really felt it. I don't know if it's just like, I really don't know why. I can't say why. All I know is that his minutes are down. Maybe the DiVincenzo addition has done more damage than we are willing to convey, to say, because Quick hasn't been playing great. Grimes hasn't been playing great, and they've lost their minutes to Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. But I do want to see these guys get better because the New York Knicks can't do anything without Emmanuel Quickly being better. Whether that means getting a good player back in a trade, Emmanuel Quickly would be a big part of that. And if he's not playing well, that lessens his trade value, or just winning basketball games, because Emmanuel Quickly is, by my estimation, a top 60 basketball player. And when he's at his best, he is absolutely that. And right now he's not. So we need him to pick it up. We need him to pick it up. Just there's no getting around it.
Yeah, I remember last year he was struggling in the beginning to start the season. And then I'm old enough to remember the Emmanuel Quickly trade rumors flying around last year. And then a few months later, he was skipping around the TD Jakes Center after dropping 38 points. So I'm not worried about him, but, I'll take it. We should be taking a task. I saw Steph Bondy from the New York Post, formerly the Daily News, had an article today about how Grimes was untouchable in the trade and yada, yada, yada in the Mitchell trade. And the headline of the article was Knicks' poor roster construction. I said, poor roster construction? And I actually, I did what 95% of people on social media don't do. I actually read the article, and it mentioned about how, when you get getting rid of Obi and replacing him with DiVincenzo created a logjam at the guard position. And while it is a logjam, I've also, because I watch soccer, in soccer and in European soccer, it's very commonplace. Like, you could have a really good starting 11. You want to bring in as many people at each position as good that are good. You bring in someone that you hope is as good as the guy who's a starter. And the term that they use is fight for your place, because the last thing you need is to be complacent. And those guys, like Grimes, Quickly, RJ, there are veterans behind you that all went to the same school that will take your place, that will make you fight for your place. I actually think that's a good segue into my why so unserious, and my why so unserious goes to Quentin Grimes. Now, we all heard what was said, and I'm gonna give a shout out to John, who pointed out that it's kind of ridiculous to say that you're afraid to get pulled from a game when you took one shot. Like, no one gets pulled from a game because they took one or two shots. Like, that's not happening. But I did give him some grace, and I thought about it, and I said, we've all played basketball, and we've all been in a situation where it's like you and your boy, and you're playing pickup, and you get picked up on this other team of three guys and don't know each other, and they're just freezing y'all out. They just pass the ball amongst each other, and then you're just like posted up in the corner, or you're just like you're in a dunker spot or whatever, and then they pass you the ball once because the point guard got triple teamed, and then you take the shot and you miss. Not badly, but you miss, and then you don't see the ball for the rest of the game. And then you're like, yo, what's up? And it was like, yo, I passed you the ball. And he's like, yo, I literally touched the ball once in 40 minutes. Like, that's not realistic. So I gave him some grace in that perspective. And then I did some digging. Then I looked up some numbers. Quentin Grimes, in shots that are defined by the NBA as open, which is defined as the closest defender is within 4 to 6 feet. On shots that are 10 feet away or more, where Quentin Grimes is open, he's shooting from 3, 27.6%. Bro, it's hard. And all field goals from the field, so 2s and 3s, open, he's shooting 25.8%. from the field. Now, I will go full Andrew Claudio here, and I will play blame pie, because when something like that happens, when a player is forced to air his grievances or feels forced to air his grievances to the media, it is not solely, there's more than just his fault. And listen, while I will hold him accountable, you have to shoot better from 3, the fact that it got to that point is a systematic failure. So I'm not going to sign numbers, but I'm looking at the three guys on this team who have the ball in their hand the most, two of them in particular, and I'm going to look at the head coach and say, like, figure out how to get this kid going because we need him. We need him. I forget which one of you said it. Like, oh, it was you, Mensa. Like, this team is not going anywhere without Julius Randle. This team is not going anywhere without Quentin Grimes guarding the best the best guard or best wing guy. They're not, and he did a pretty decent job on Dame on Tuesday night. But if we need him on the court, then we have to figure out a way to get him going, and that is a collective effort from, again, that is the head coach and that is the guys who have the ball in their hands the most. But Quentin, 27% of open threes is not going to cut it. It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't matter how many. Like, you got that has to be better. And I'll give a shout out to DJ, who had a great thread. He broke down the Milwaukee game and he pointed out a situation where Quentin had the ball on a mini fast break, and he had Brook Lopez in front of him, and he could have drove to the basket, but he immediately passed it to Julius. So part of it you can say is like he's just programmed to give Julius the ball, or he's just in his own head so much he doesn't want to. He's messing up. He's afraid he'll mess up, so pass it. But like, those are the things that have to improve, and that's where it comes to blame pie. But again, can't shoot 27% from wide open threes because, again, there are guys who went to the same school who will show you how it's done and make you fight for your place.
Yeah, I mean, Quentin Grimes has not been playing well. Like, that is absolutely a factual statement. And I think everything you said, Shawn, is spot on as far as like blame pie and the blame to kind of go around for it. And the fact that we're going to need him. Like, I think that's 100% true. He is our best wing defender and our best two guard defender. So he's definitely going to be needed for the long-term success of the team in this year, at least. I will say, nobody likes being the corner boy in the NBA. I was listening to JJ Redick's interview with Kristaps, our old boy KP, which was actually really good. I like the interview. KP he's a very chill dude, so he seems likable enough. And but it did come up that both JJ and Porzingis had different points in their career where they were essentially like relegated to the corner, and they both were like, yo, it sucks. Like, and JJ was even like, I get why they're doing this, but run some effing plays for me. Like, nah, like this is not cool. And obviously Grimes is not on the level of guys like JJ Redick and Porzingis at this point. But at the same time, I mean, we hear so frequently when players are kind of relegated to this role where they're in the spacing role in the offense, and really how they help the team the most is by being in the corner and stretching defenses as far as they possibly can. It's tough for guys to adjust to that, especially when they're this off season, they're working on a bunch of different stuff and they're doing other kinds of drills. And it's just like, now I'm just spotted up here and I'm not able to kind of show off anything that I've done. And there does feel like there's a ton of pressure on every shot that goes up. So I can empathize with Grimes. Like, I get why it's difficult. At the same time, he needs to make more shots. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to just have a better mindset going into it. Like you mentioned, Shawn, it's like when it's that moment when it's like Julius is there and you're just like, oh, let me just give it back to Julius. Like, we can't be doing that. We got to be more aggressive and more assertive and just go down, don't go down without a fight. And the last thing I want to say is just like, I always think of the stuff that Jeremy Lin was talking about when he got inserted, and it's like, my NBA career could be coming to an end here. And, he had playing time, and it's just like, I'm going to play my game and I'm going to just go all out and I'm going to be aggressive. And if it flops, then, I'm out of here anyway. Like, and obviously Grimes is not at that point, but I do think there's something to that mindset where it's like, play your game, do what you've practiced and what you do well, do it aggressively, do it assertively. It may not work all the time, but that's the best way that you're going to impact winning and help this team win. So I think I just need to see that mentality shift from Grimes. And I think that's what he can do on his end.
Yeah, 100%. Long gone are the days of Tony Allen and Andre Roberson. Quentin Grimes needs to shoot the ball, and I believe he needs to be involved. Like, this is a guy that, like, I was scathing hot watching the New York Knicks first half game plan. But, before, I mean, look, the Milwaukee Bucks shot, like Shawn said, a free throw percentage from 3, which is crazy. So there was no way we were going to win the game with them shooting that great.
Not the worst free throw shooter percentage.
Yeah, like RJ Barrett last year. It was insane watching them shoot. So we probably weren't going to win the game anyway, but we were letting Dame Lillard. It was like the Atlanta series from 2 years ago all over again, where they just parked Trae Young on Reggie Bullock and he got to take water breaks every time down the court. We did nothing to involve Dame Lillard in the actions because Quentin Grimes was literally Bodie from The Wire, just standing in the corner the entire time. And I know DJ and Benji, these guys, they know so much more about like the actual film breakdown and what it takes to be excellent at the NBA level. And they have been pointing out little flaws in Quentin Grimes' game, like maybe he's not a great movement shooter, all these things. And that's good and well. 100%. But if you're going to be a starting shooting guard in the NBA and you as a coach are going to say, this is my starting shooting guard in the NBA, then when Dame Lillard is on the court and he is very likely to tear you up, and he did tear us up because when Quentin Grimes sat down at 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game, from that point on, Dame Lillard scored 10 points to end the half. So in 2 minutes and 15 seconds, Dame scored 10 points because Quentin Grimes was off the court. So we need this guy on the court, right? But you can't let a player like Dame Lillard rest. And we saw it doubly so because they were killing Jalen Brunson off the ball. They made him guard Malik Beasley. He had to close out. He was working for everything on defense, and he wasn't the most efficient player on offense last night. But we decided that we were going to let Dame Lillard do absolutely nothing on defense because we didn't want to involve Quentin Grimes. And one thing I was saying, like, look, if Quentin Grimes isn't going to shoot the ball, then get him out the game and put in Emmanuel Quickly or put in Dante DiVincenzo. But I get it. We need his defense. But if you're going to need his defense, then you have to get his offense going. Otherwise, you're playing 4-on-5. Right? You're playing 4-on-5 on defense. And then the other guys, a guy like Dame Lillard, who the game plan is go put him on Quentin Grimes. Make Quentin Grimes run around. There's a reason why a guy like Klay Thompson or a guy like Ray Allen, and these are all-time great shooters. So I don't think I'm comparing Quentin Grimes to these all-time great shooters, but what made them so great, even a guy like Rip Hamilton back on the mid-aught Pistons, movement. JJ Redick, movement, because you can't rest. I don't care if Quentin Grimes doesn't take a shot. I want him running around the court all the damn game because that's how Dame Lillard is gonna not have those shooting legs in the fourth quarter and the third quarter. Again, it didn't matter last night. It did not, because they were shooting everything. They were on fire. But it's the process that we can take away from in these games, even in a game where we were hopeless. You can look at the game and say, that is something that is troubling as a trend, and we need to do something about it, because you can't let teams have their best players rest on defense. You have to involve them in the actions. And whether it's Quentin Grimes' inability to convert the ball, whether it's his unwillingness to shoot something, you have to get that kid going, because like Fred Katz and everybody likes to say, he has 40% three-point shooting form. He has the form. He can do it. It's just we haven't seen it yet. And as for him to be a young player, for me to have been as patient as I was and still am with RJ Barrett, I have to be just as patient with Quentin Grimes, and I have to be just as patient with Emmanuel Quickly. But one thing I will say is that when everything was against a guy like Cam Reddish, who we still give shit in Knicks land, Cam Reddish never said anything in the press. When everything was against a guy like RJ Barrett and all these players, right, they never gave us that hot button comment the way that Quentin Grimes just gave us, which to me, I think all these guys are media trained. I think the New York Knicks draft guys who are smart enough not to say stuff like that. So there probably is a little bit more underneath the surface with regards to Quentin Grimes' situation, or maybe he just was frustrated and had a moment in an elimination game, which is fair. But it is something that bears watching. I think that especially in a season like this one where everybody knows, like, The longer it takes for the Knicks to make the star trade, everybody knows the star trade is coming inside the building and outside the building. So it does bear watching when guys are unhappy. It does bear watching when guys are underperforming. So the Quentin Grimes situation is something I'm going to continue to have my eyes on until it resolves itself, whether that be with him playing well, whether that be with him signing an extension, whether that be with him being traded to another team. He's officially on watch. And I hate it has to be him. This entire segment has broken my heart because all three of those guys are my guys. But it is what it is, man. We're 20 games into the season, and here at Knicks Film School, we're going to chronicle the season as it rolls. So this is just where we are. These guys are not having good seasons right now. They're not having a good stretch of games. So we got to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's all extremely well said. It is kind of sad that, the three guys that we brought up are the Knicks 23 and 24-year-old, highly touted prospects that we all three have high hopes for. And I just want to say, I think that none of us are, definitely none of us are jumping off the bandwagon for any of these three players. I think we all three know that they can bounce back and that they'll play better. And I fully believe that 100% for all three players. So none of this is like, we're done with these guys. It's just being real about kind of the situation that's been going on recently. And yeah, I think it was all really well said. But to maybe a much more optimistic and uplifting segment, we are going to close out Casual Friday with our bold predictions. I'm going to kick us off with my bold prediction. The Knicks' next three games are against Boston, Toronto, and Utah. My bold prediction is that in one of these three games, Immanuel Quickley, the aforementioned struggling Immanuel Quickley, at least offensively, will drop a highly efficient 30 points against one of those three teams. Listen, we have seen Immanuel Quickley shooting be extremely streaky over the years. He has a huge variance on his shooting in terms of cold streaks and hot streaks. He might shoot 38% on the season, but then, depending on what sample of games you watch, you might come away thinking like he's a way worse shooter or a way better shooter than he is. Like if you only catch the hot Immanuel Quickley games, you're like, that guy's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. And if you only catch the cold Immanuel Quickley games, you're like, that guy should not be shooting. He should just be passing the ball and trying to attack the interior. But despite that streakiness, I've always hoped that that's something that would kind of clear up as he continued across his career. I think we're still seeing some of that, but I do expect a hot streak to bounce back. He's kind of had a cold streak over the last several games. And I think over the next three, one of those, he's going to be hot. He's going to play a bunch of minutes and he's going to take over. And ideally it's against Boston because I would love to see that. But I think it's going to be one of those three games. I think we're going to see a huge offensive output game from Immanuel Quickley. And my hope is that kind of his defensive impact comes along with that. And one thing sparks and leads to the other. And so that's what I think is going to happen. That's my bold prediction.
My bold prediction will be that and this is very bold because I actually, knowing who my head coach is, I don't know if it's going to happen, but Isaiah Hartenstein will play more minutes than Mitchell Robinson against the Celtics on Friday because if Kristaps plays, which it looks like he will, stretch fives have always been an issue for Mitch, and no team personifies that issue more than this Celtics team who like to play five out. And I think that the solve for this, because we already played them twice, and shout out to everyone who's whining about us to play them 5 times. I do like what my man Bree says and laced up. I think iHeart may play. I think against this Celtics team, iHeart may be the person who has to play more than Mitch because of how Mitch struggles with stretch big. So my bold prediction is that on Friday, iHeart has more minutes than Mitchell Robinson.
A good bold prediction. My bold prediction is going to be that. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. A player other than Quentin Grimes will start at shooting guard for the New York Knicks in the next 3 games. And it will not be because of injury.
Wow. That's a scorching take.
But I was like, nah. But hey, more power to you, because I
had to go for something. I wouldn't be me if I didn't have a very bold prediction. By the way, guys,
who do you think is going to be if you had to guess?
Emmanuel Quickly.
Wow,
I think they'll start quick.
I think it'll be Devo.
I mean, we've seen DiVincenzo get the starting job, but I think that Emmanuel Quickly's, how do I put it? I think Emmanuel Quickly's necessity to the second unit has been cut down because he's now in the 7th man role, not the 6th man role. Josh Hart is officially the 6th man. I think that they like having the Villanova Knicks play together. I think Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Dante DiVincenzo play really well together. And Emmanuel Quickly is the one who is in the contract year. Emmanuel Quickly is the one who can give, especially because RJ's been struggling, Emmanuel Quickly can give you a second ball handler, can do a little bit more, and doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands. Like, he's going to shoot that thing regardless, and so the reason why, and here's the big reason why that I'm going with Quickly over DiVincenzo, because if you want to get stops, you can't have Brunson and DiVincenzo together. You need somebody to play defense there, and I think that Emmanuel Quickly can show that he can take over that plan of attack role for Quentin Grimes a lot better than DiVincenzo can. So I think that in the next 3 games, we will see an Emmanuel Quickly start at shooting guard.
I love the take because I think that the much maligned, and I know you agree with this, Mensa, because you've talked about this before. The much maligned idea for the Knicks in terms of like who could start, who should start, is the Brunson Quickly backcourt idea. And I a ton of people, and I think it's probably the majority opinion, is that that's too small a backcourt to start and to be the Knicks' real starting backcourt, kind of like in this season and moving forward for the future. But as I'm prone to say, the data doesn't support that perspective. The data shows that when Quickly and Brunson are on the court, and I looked at it recently, it's over the last 2 years, almost 2,500 possessions. The Knicks are plus like 12, over 2,500 possessions in all possessions where Quickly and Brunson share the court. And I think that might be the best 2-man on-off net rating of any 2 players on the Knicks. So I just don't think that any data supports the idea that those 2 couldn't start. I mean, we have a lot of theories about it, like they'd be too small, they don't have a point of attack defender, that they would both get kind of picked on by offenses that have bigger guards, whatever the case may be. There's nothing that supports that happening. I mean, for me, it's like, I want to see it, and then I'll say, all right, yeah, you're right, that happens, but we haven't. So, and we've seen them play together for 2,500 possessions over the course of 2 years. So I would like to see it, but I think that's a bold take. It'll be interesting to see if it happens.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm just thinking about a Mensa is a rent due Tibbs versus rent paid Tibbs, and I think Tibbs' rent has been paid. So and that's why I think my prediction is bold prediction, because I think the rent is paid. I don't think he's there. I don't think Tibbs is there yet. But you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened, and we will see if any of our bold predictions come true. Hopefully, at least one of them does. And when I say one of them, I mean where Emmanuel Quickly drops 30 on the Boston Celtics.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so that was our final segment. Thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Casual Friday. I know I can speak for my 2 co-hosts here when I say we're so happy to be back. It was a little bit of a layoff, but we're super happy to be back. And yeah, just big shout out to all of KFS. Everybody on the staff, on the roster has been killing it again. The quality of the film threads on Twitter by Benji and DJ have been unparalleled. Every pod has been super dope, and including ours, I'll say. We're just crushing it and super happy to be back. Anything you guys want to say? Last words?
From my family, It's crazy how life changes. But yes, from my family to yours, I want to wish everybody a great end of the year. We got 24 more days left. I hope that everybody hits their goals, whether it be at work, personal, whatever it is, that everybody has a happy holiday season. If you're not celebrating the holidays, and I hope that you have a happy month, and that, the Knicks, look, this month, if you look at that schedule, it's going to be a little rough. So hopefully the Knicks can contribute to that happiness. But if not, let's always remember that, life comes first, and that whether or not the Knicks are playing well, I hope that you have happiness, because my life has been filled with happiness the past couple of weeks. And I just want everybody to have even a smidget of the same joy that I've had. So from my family to yours out there, thank you guys, and have a happy end of the year.
I echo all those sentiments. And for me, to the Knicks fans out there, listen, 12 of our first 34 games at home. So, including we have a 5-game road trip coming up. Now, one of those games, the last game is at Brooklyn. So that's technically not a road game, because you know how we do over there. But once we get past this hellacious schedule, and shout out to the NBA for the Knicks will only play 40 home games this year because of the in-season tournament, which I'm still in favor of, but they got to figure it out next year. But listen, we're through this hellacious schedule, the Knicks are on pace to win 49 games. So just hold tight. We'll be all right. Everything will be fine. And don't listen to people on 4-letter networks who leave basketball games early with their favorite team because they had no confidence in the first place, because he doesn't think we have any stars.
Another shout out for a certain person on a 4-letter network. I echo all of those sentiments. I think all of that is super well said. This was a great show. Another edition of Casual Friday, and we will catch you next time.